How does cell communicate each other?
Well, we used to think again, or we still think in the medical community that cells use chemistry, like hormones or growth factors or neuropeptides. They think this is the only form of communication. But we now know, because of quantum physics, you can communicate with chemicals, but the communication is much more efficient with energy vibration, like tuning forks, or like a broadcast from a radio station to a receiver. Cells are sending vibrations back and forth to each other. Now, when we talk, the sound is a vibration. But the cells talk to each other with vibrations at different levels of vibrations that we can't hear those vibrations. But it's almost the same as you and I having a discussion. Two cells can communicate with vibrations to each other. And now that becomes important because that's not chemistry. That's quantum physics. And the relevance about that is the vibrations influence the genetics, and the vibrations influence the behavior of the cells, so that we're beginning to recognize that rather than healing with chemicals and drugs, you can heal with energy and vibrations. Well, we knew this a long time ago, but in the world of Newtonian physics and modern medicine, they disregarded that whole thing. And the significance about that is that the result is we rely on drugs today. We rely on the pharmaceutical company today. And they don't want us to know about energy healing for a very simple reason. Energy healing doesn't cost any money. You don't have to buy anything. And so the drug company doesn't want to tell you could heal yourself with energy because there's no business. And so medicine has been really controlled by the drug companies.
Yes, you are correct. But there is one more problem with that. Even people knows that they can heal themselves with energy. It is very difficult to do it. It is not the companies don't want to tell us. Even if they are telling us all, the situation is not changing very much.
Well, but this is what the Biology of Belief book focuses on. And it says, why doesn't it change very much? And this is why, because when I talk in the book, I say, the belief, there's two parts to the mind. The mind is where the belief comes from. But there are two parts to the mind. There's the conscious part and the subconscious part. And the difference is, the subconscious, when you say the word subconscious in English, sub means below. So when I'm operating from subconscious, I'm operating from below. It's operating without my even seeing it. It's automatic. It's sort of like if a ball is coming toward your face, you will blink your eye automatically. You don't think about it, it's just automatic. So it turns out the reason we have problems is that the two minds don't work together a lot. The conscious mind is our personal connection to spirit. Our conscious mind is our personal identity. The subconscious mind is almost like a tape recorder. It has habits. You learn something, and once you learn it, you just push the button, and it'll play it without you even thinking about it. So I'll give an example. Before you had a driver's license, you didn't know how to drive a car. Once you got a driver's license, you had to practice, and you practice. And now you drive the car so much, you practice so much, you don't even have to think about it. So you get in the car, you put the key in, and you're thinking about where you're going to go and all that, but you don't pay attention to the gears, you don't pay attention to all, it's automatic now. So it says, once you learn something and you repeat it, it becomes a habit, but now it's in the subconscious mind. So here's the problem. The conscious mind has your wishes and your desires. When I ask you, I say, Christian, what do you want from your life? That's creative. You create an answer. The conscious mind is creative. The subconscious mind is habit. It just plays the same habit. It doesn't create. Now, here's the problem. The conscious mind is creative, and that's the one that has desires and wishes, like, I want to heal myself. That's a wish. I want to be successful. That's a wish. I want to marry a wonderful person. That's a wish. I go, okay, that's from the conscious, that's what you want. But now what we find out, we only use the conscious mind 5% of the time. That means 95% of our life is not coming from the creative wishes. 95% comes from the subconscious, the lower one. Okay, and I say, okay, great. But now here comes the problem. The fundamental or the primary habits in the subconscious mind, we learned them from our parents and our family and our community before we were 6 years old. By watching our family, we downloaded, just like a television camera. As a child, we're like a camera recording everything we see. And those habits that we see from our mother and our father, from our family, from our community, those habits are downloaded into the subconscious. So now I say, today, Christian, let's say you're 50 years old, okay, 45, I don't know,
48. 48.
I was close.
Almost, yes.
I say, okay, but today I say you operate 5% of the time with your wishes. You say, I want to be healthy, and a person out there in the audience says, yes, I want to be healthy. And I go, that's from the conscious mind. I say that only works 5% of the time. What about where do the programs come from, the subconscious? They come from your family. If you have diseases and illness in your family, it's not because of the genetics. It's because of the behavior that creates the disease. It's driver education. Your habits drive your biology, just like an autopilot, an automatic pilot. The habits that are driving your life then are not yours. They come from the subconscious, which are other people's habits that you downloaded. So 5% of the time you work with your wishes and your desires. 95% of the time you work with the habits that you got from other people. And because it's subconscious, you don't see it. And that's why people have a problem in the world, because they say everything's so hard. I want to be healthy. I'm trying so hard. And I go, no matter how much you try, it's only 5%. Because 95% is going to play invisible the habit in the subconscious, which you got from your family. And so this becomes important because most people don't see the habit. They don't see themselves. And in my lecture, I tell a story. I say, I know sometime in your history you had a friend and you knew your friend's behavior. You knew your friend's behavior very well. And I said, but you also knew your friend's parents. And sometime you recognize that your friend has the same behavior that the parent has. So you say, you know, Bill, you're just like your father. And then people laugh because they know that as soon as you say that, Bill will go, how can you compare me to my father? And I tell it, and everybody laughs because they have experience. And I say, the joke is everyone else can see that Bill behaves like his father. The only one who doesn't see it is Bill. And I say, that's because it's subconscious. So when he's doing the behavior he learned from his father, he's doing it automatically without even seeing it. And the point of the story is we are all Bill. All of us are operating with invisible behavior. We don't see it. Now, where's the problem come from? As you mentioned just now before, and this is the point. You said it's very difficult to change. And I say, it's difficult to change because you're only using the mind that creates change 5% of the time. And 95% of the time, you're going to play the habit that you got from your family. So why is it difficult to change? Because you're not controlling it. You're letting, the subconscious is still in control. What you had to do in changing your life, Christian, was you had to change the basic beliefs that you grew up with. You had to go back and change your mind over some of the things that you learned when you were younger and say, I'm not going to live that way. I'm going to live a different way now. And when you took power back and you changed the program to match what was in your conscious mind, then you started to create from your conscious mind. And that's when you created the life that you wanted.
Yes, but, you know, changing just the ideas was not a very tough problem. Well, it was in a certain degree, but not very tough compared to changing the physiology mechanisms, which made me very weak. I lost vitality, I did not have enough energy. This was the most difficult task, to change it back, to get my health back, my vitality back, and the energy, not just the ideas. I needed 16 years to work on that.
Let me explain why it was so hard. Because some people think if my conscious mind has a new idea, then my subconscious mind should have the same idea. And it's like, no, that's the problem. The conscious mind can have any ideas that it wants. It doesn't, the subconscious learns from habit. You have to learn it over and over and over and over again. That's what's in the subconscious mind. So if an idea comes into my conscious mind, a new idea, it doesn't change the subconscious mind because the subconscious mind has to keep the same programs. Otherwise, the subconscious mind would change every day. It would be crazy. So the subconscious mind is habits. Habits don't change every day. So if you want to change a habit, then you have to do some kind of work to change the habit. The conscious mind is creative. You came up with, oh, this is a great idea. And I go, yeah, but it doesn't, that's not a habit, that's an idea. Then you say, where was the hard part? That's what you said, there was the hard part. And I say, the hard part, and I had to do this myself. You're not the only one. Because when the new biology came across, I said, oh my goodness, it's my ideas. And I said, I should be able to change my life. I have these new ideas. I said, but my life stayed the same. I say, what was the difference? I say, until you take the idea and make a habit, it won't work. So where's the job? And the job is, as you mentioned, the harder part was take the idea, but you have to force a habit. You have to learn it every day. You have to work on it because habit is repetition. How'd you learn anything? You repeated it and you repeated it. Like when you learned the alphabet when you were a child. You didn't learn it the first time you heard the alphabet. How many times did you have to start over again? A, B, C, over and over and over again. You had to start and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Was that work? Yeah. So you have to do a process to take an idea from the conscious mind and put that idea into the subconscious mind.
I still remember from my childhood that huge amount of effort to learn the multiplying table.
And you had to repeat it, right?
Yes. It was so hard to do it. I never forget it. I never forget it, the experience also, not just a table.
Well, I know, but you see, and the same thing you just talked about with your own healing. You said the ideas came pretty easy, but to make it work, you had to do something. And it was just like the times table. You had to change an old belief because they don't change easy. That's what's important because that keeps us constant. If the subconscious mind stays the same, then every day you can get dressed without learning how to get dressed again. Every day you can walk without learning how to walk again. So the subconscious likes to memorize the program, and you have to change the program. You got to do something, and that's what you call the hard work.
Yeah. What is the difference between random and chaotic, and why is it important?
Okay, the word random means just by chance. Something happens by chance. It's random, okay? And chaotic is funny because from something that we look at and we say, oh, that looks random, it turns out in chaos, it might look random, but underneath there was an organization. And so random is no real organization, and chaos looks like it's random, but there's really an organization behind it. I give a demonstration in my lecture. Now, I don't know if it'll work in Romania because we have a big train station in New York City called Grand Central Station. It's a big train station. And at rush hour, there's so many different doors for all the different trains, right? And you see the crowd of people, thousands of people, and they're all moving around. And if you look at them, you think, oh, they're all just, randomly moving around. The fact is, no, they're not randomly moving around. Everyone knows which door to which train they're going to. But if you're up from a balcony looking down, you think everybody's just random. And it's like, no, everyone's going somewhere. I say, what's random? And I say, in that station, when everybody's running around going to the train, you yell fire, and what will happen is people will start to panic, and all of a sudden now they're running, but where are they running to? Now it's random. And see, so they both look the same, but every passenger was going to a specific destination. Even though you look from the top, it looked like they were just randomly moving. But when you yell fire, then all of a sudden everybody started to run to anywhere, and that's completely random. So they both look the same, but one has order and the other one is no order at all. And why is this important? Because when we look at the weather, when we look at the biology in the body, the physiology, so use the weather. Everyone says, oh, the clouds or winds are blowing, it's all chaotic. It's like, no, you could actually, mathematically calculate all the movement. It's not an accident. And that's what that story of the butterfly flapping its wings, the butterfly flapping its wings in the tropics, leads to a storm in the United States. Because every little bit of movement is added up, and yet our minds can't do the math. Our minds can't do it. So we look at it from the distance, just like looking at the crowd of people. We say, "Oh, the weather is random." I say, if you could measure every little thing, like the flap of every little butterfly wing, if you could measure it, then you would say, "No, the weather is not random. There's this mathematical." And so, the important part about our biology is, a lot of people see it as random, that just things happen randomly. And it says, no, underneath there's an order. Everything happens according to the plans. And if you understand that, then all of a sudden you can take what looks like a random biology, like, why did I just get sick? It was just an accident. It's like, no. It was the way you didn't see all the little moves you were doing. You didn't see how the thoughts you were having. All of them created that. So there was an organization. And what's the difference and why is it important? And the answer is this. If something is random, you can't change it. If something is chaotic, that means there's a control. And that means you can change and control chaos, but you can't control random. So when you look at the body and they say, oh, it's all chaos, and I go, hey, look, it is chaos, but it's still controllable. And this is what we have to come back. Our lives are not accidents. They're not random. Our lives are in a state of chaos, which says it looks random, but underneath there's a plan.
Okay. What was the Human Genome Project and why the results shocked the scientists?
Well, when science finally agreed that genes control life, then they said, well, if we had a list of all the human genes, then anybody's problem, we will be able to fix it with a new gene. So if I wanted to get more hair, I could say, if I knew the gene to make hair, I could engineer that gene, and then I could grow new hair. If I knew the gene that caused cancer, then I could stop the cancer. So people are saying, oh, if we knew all the genes, we could control every character of life, because genes control life. And if you could identify each gene, you can use them. So it was interesting because the Human Genome Project was actually started because of the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry said, wow, science expected to be 150,000 human genes to make a human biology. And to the pharmaceutical people, they said, well, every gene is going to be like a new drug. So if Christian wants to change his height, I could give Christian a gene to make him taller. Maybe a music gene like Mozart. If you wanted to be like Mozart, maybe I could engineer for you a music gene. This is all the belief that the genes control these things. So the drug company, thinking, well, there are 150,000 genes, said, oh my goodness, that's 150,000 new drugs. And so they said, let's make a list of all the genes, and then we can use them to treat patients. So they were thinking about it to make money, not to help humans, but to make money in the pharmaceutical company. So that's what they started the project with. And the big surprise was, science, according to the belief of the time, said it would take 150,000 genes to make a human body. When the results came in, there were only 23,000 genes. Well, what does that mean? It said, science said there had to be 150,000. There were only 23,000. It means Science didn't know how the biology worked because the whole idea was wrong, because there's 125,000 genes missing. Well, they're not missing. They just don't exist. And all of a sudden I said, well, then how can science say there's 150,000 when we find there's only 23,000? And the answer is science didn't understand how it worked. And we had a belief system that was wrong, that genes don't control life the way we thought they do. We now know that the mind can take 23,000 genes and create 150,000 different proteins from only 23,000 genes. Before, they thought one gene makes one protein. And since there were 150,000 different proteins, then science said, well, there must be 150,000 genes. Now it turns out there's only 23,000 genes, but they make 150,000 proteins. So some genes make more than one protein. And it's like, well, that changes the entire belief system. And it removes the belief that genetic engineering is going to be easily accomplished, because they didn't understand how it worked. But that failure, that mistake, is what took science off the understanding of how life worked. And that's why conventional medicine is not that good at helping heal the human race, because they still focus on the chemistry, controlling the genes, and they have a whole wrong idea how it worked. And now we know there's the mind, and the mind controlling 23,000 genes is what creates the lives that we have.
And how do we change the old story and write the new one, the correct one?
Well, the most important thing, Christian, on that is to recognize that knowledge is power. And lack of knowledge means lack of power. The knowledge that we've been operating by has been wrong. And so basically, these four misperceptions we talked about earlier say that that knowledge is not true. So it's a lack of knowledge. We have been operating without our power because we didn't know the new knowledge. So how am I going to give you your power back? And the answer is, power is knowledge. I have to give you new knowledge. And this is why the science is so important, because in the last 20 years or so, new knowledge has changed our complete understanding, which means the public has to get this new knowledge. It's not just for the scientists. The knowledge is used by the public. And if the public has the wrong knowledge, a lack of knowledge, then the public is being disempowered. And so the change of our civilization, the change of our evolution, why the world is coming to a new order is because new science is saying we have been living incorrectly, and I'm going to give you a new science, a new knowledge, new power. And with that new power, you will take power over your life, and will take power bringing back the garden. And so we need the education. And education is the primary important goal of civilization. And that's why, for example, your work is very critical, Christian, is because you're helping change the education from an old belief into a new belief, from a disempowering state into knowledge that has more personal power, as you expressed with your own life. And so as much as you change your knowledge to bring more power to your life, we have to change the knowledge of the civilization to give them more power so we can move forward.
Yes, Bruce, but I did it on a very small scale, and I am only one person here.
But Christian, here's the whole idea. But there's a person like you in every country. There's a person like you scattered everywhere. We're going to learn from lots of people with they're going to show us the same idea, but from all over the world at the same time. There's not just one teacher. There are lots of teachers, because the population is 7 billion people. We can't depend on one teacher. We're going to have teachers everywhere. So each one of us, I do a part, you do a part, people in the audience listening to us, they will be doing a part. All of us have to recognize that the evolution is not from individuals. The evolution is a cooperation of all the individuals. And this is what we are beginning to learn. That's why the barriers between countries are going to fall apart. That's why the world is starting to recognize we're all one thing. While we see ourselves as individual people, it's like we are all cells in the body of something bigger called humanity. So like a human being, you look in the mirror and you say, oh, there's one human being looking back at me. I go, we're not a one organism. By definition, we are made out of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entities, and their community creates me. Well, in that same story, we ourselves as 7 billion cells, but we are representing one bigger organism called humanity, and that is the evolution.
Yes. Only 1 minute remained, and I thank you very, very much for this meeting. And it was very fascinating for me, and I hope it was also for our viewers. Well, as good news regarding what you had said earlier, one small team of biologists from India are interested in my paper.
Great. I saw the blog on that. It was really wonderful. As I said, you said, I'm just one small person. I said, look, your words are already in India. So think about that, how fast that happened, okay? And your words are spreading. And this is what the whole idea of the internet is the brain of humanity because it connects all of us individual cells into one giant organism. That's why your words in Romania have a change of people in India, is because we can communicate around the world. So even though you see yourself only localized where you are, your words are now becoming international, and that's how the world will change through this internet. That's why the upheavals in the Arab Spring, because the people were watching the internet saying, but the rest of the world has all this stuff and we don't. And that's why it's connecting all the people to be in one world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And after broadcasting, I'll upload the program on the internet so everybody can see it.
Well, I so appreciate the opportunity because you're helping me get my words from the United States into Romania, and then from there, it'll spread like your word to other places as well. So thank you for helping me be a teacher as well.
I thank you very much, Bruce Lipton, and I wish you a very nice day, and we'll meet again.
I hope so, and I would love to see you in the forest.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Mai avem doar un minut până la finalul emisiunii. A fost o discuție fascinantă și mă bucur că am avut această ocazie de a sta de vorbă cu un expert de talie internațională. Sper că această emisiune va oferi nu doar o nouă perspectivă asupra biologiei, ci poate chiar o lecție de viață despre înțelegerea ființei noastre. Iar aceasta nu e doar o simplă apreciere din partea mea, ci vă pot confirma că am aplicat practic toate cunoștințele și teoriile domnului profesor Bruce Lipton și rezultatele nu au întârziat să apară. Aș vrea să închei cu o frază pe care am mai amintit-o într-una din emisiunile trecute, și anume: dacă drumul de la sănătate la boală se parcurge extrem de ușor și fără efort, întoarcerea în sens invers, de la boală la sănătate, mai ales în cazul maladiilor cronice vechi, este foarte greu de parcurs, necesită efort și pregătire multidisciplinară, cultivarea atitudinilor corecte față de mersul vieții și continuă adaptare la condițiile de mediu și sociale. Mijloacele necesare vă stau deja la dispoziție. Fiți alături de noi, data viitoare, la o nouă întâlnire cu știință și cunoaștere.